All right. Well, another week in the books and another loss for the New York Jets. And so now we have to take a look at these PFF grades because, well, why not? And let's see who's doing well, who's grading not so well. And some of the decisions that we have to make for the future will be based upon how these players play for the rest of the season. Now, as a standard reminder, we don't use PFF as the Bible, and I'm going to show you some interesting things at the end of this video, so make sure you stick around for those. Um, it's hard to find any other system that grades every single play and every single player and every single team of the NFL, though there are some out there, but PFF is the big one, so might as well take a look. So let's take a look right now. Let's do a little share of the screen. Why not? And see how the Jets did against these Miami Dolphinians. Let's take away some of this stuff. Can we? Can we take away this? Yes. Okay. That was eating up too much space. All right, now on offense, what happened here? Well, number one on the list, Aaron Rodgers had the best game of his season for sure. The normie stats back it up, and the grades feel the same exact way. Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams did very well, as anybody who was watching the game could see. Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis also had nice games. AVT did well, and that's good. He continues to play well for us. Olu did okay. So we would like to see a little bit better from Olu, but the rookie is learning on the job and doing okay. Morgan Moses, I mean, this is a tough son of a bitch who played 33 snaps with about 3 or 4 injuries going on. That is one tough SOB. Lazard came back and did okay. A couple of penalties, no bueno. We could do without those penalties, Mr. Lizard King. John Simpson, not a great game, although his pass blocking was excellent. The run blocking, not so good. Now, this is the most disappointing one to me, Joey Tips. So you saw what happened in the game, and it was a lot of these are down linemen. And whenever they write this, they make this a nose for some reason. So you have and tackle nose, and even though this is really a tackle. And what the Dolphinians were doing were stunts. This guy goes this way, this guy goes this way, this guy delays, then goes this way. So they were doing a lot of tackle stunts. You might call them tackle nose stunts. I call it tackle. I like a nose to be a zero tech, not anything else. But anyway, that's how they write it sometimes. But anyway, that's what they were doing, and we did not handle it very well. And I think so that's a learning experience for old Joey Tips. So even so, he did, slightly below average. But, we got to see a little bit better from Joey Tips moving forward. Mitchell is a cut candidate, and Jeremy Ruckert continues to play himself off the roster. If we can trade him for anything in the offseason, we should. He needs a fresh start. This whole idea of a big Jets fan playing well for the Jets, that's gone out the window with old Rucksack because it's too much in his head. You can see him out there. It's too much in his head. He's got to go someplace else where his father is not, a crazy Jet fan, and emphasis on the crazy. That's a crazy person. Okay, defense. What about how the defense do? Well, Solomon Thomas had a rare good game. So good job, Solly. Quinnen played okay, but we would like to see a little more for our $25 million. Thank you very much. Jamin Sherwood had a hell of a game. Tony Adams got back in the mix. We played a lot of 3 safety sets. So Jalen Mills, Chuck Clark, they all played pretty good. Even Ashton Davis, the safeties played okay. Michael Clemens continues to disappoint. He put up 0 anything. He really didn't do much, even though he graded out as average. He put up nothing on the old scoreboard. Reed and Eccles struggled covering those fast receivers that the Dolphins have. Reddick continues to be a complete disappointment. Leonard Taylor, below average. Would like to again see him get more snaps. Did get a pressure while he was in there. And the defensive line continues to struggle. Watts, McDonald, Kinlaw, Oliver struggled. And then Quincy probably had one of his worst games of the year, struggled mightily and had two missed tackles. And we can't have that, Mr. Quincy. No bueno. Now let's take a look at old Mr. Aaron Rodgers. He had one of his best games, 69.2%. One touchdown, no interceptions, one big time throw, no turnover worthy plays, an average depth of target of 7.1 yards. Pretty good. 2.7 time to throw. So all of the numbers match what we saw with our eyes. 339 yards was big for him. He had a long streak of games where he didn't get 300 and he broke that. So good job as far as that goes. Now, as far as pass blocking, Kenny Yeboah, number one. Now, what should we do about this rucksack problem? Put Yeboah as tight end two. Give him a shot. He's earned it. 100% efficiency on blocking. Ruckert, pass blocking. He also had 100, but Ruckert has been dropping the ball. He's not run blocking very well. It's time to move Yabo above Ruckert, and then in the offseason, see what you get. See what you can get for the rucksack. If you can get anything at all, a seventh round pick, a pick swap, a pepperoni pizza, something for Mr. Ruckert because he's not working out here at all. Now, let's get down to the linemen. AVT, 100%. Excellent. Good job. AVT continues to play well. Simpson, 98.8. That's also excellent. Good job. Morgan Moses with 30,000 injuries per day. Did a nice job. Now, Joey Tips, Olu, and Max Mitchell, no bueno. Max Mitchell, as well as Carter Warren, playing himself off of this roster. We need an improvement in our backup tackle situation. 93.7 is not going to get it done. 95.3 is not going to get it done. 95.3 is not going to get it done. Tips, Olu, young guys improving. Okay, this was a bad game for them. Although not terrible, but Max Mitchell, 93, no bueno. And I guess he played a little better than Carter Warren, but we cannot have that. All right, so those are basically the grades for everybody. Now, I wanted to show something about Aaron Rodgers. Now, if you look at certain statistics, you may say to yourself, we got ourselves a quarterback. Because look, according to the passing grades, this is sorted by passing grade only. Aaron Rodgers is a top 10 quarterback, everybody. Well, look at that. And you may look at some of his normie stats and say, well, wait a minute. He's right in the mix. 20 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. What's the problem here? Let's bring him back for next year. After all, his completion percentage, isn't bad, and it's getting better now that he's all healthy, so to speak. And his grades across the board look okay. Big time throws looks okay. Turnover worthy plays looks good in terms of how many he has and the percentage and everything. Average depth of target is right in the mix of everybody else and all like that. So you may say, well, gee, we got a top 10 guy here. Why would we move on from him after all? Especially if in the next 4 games he, does basically has a similar game to what he just had, then that'll raise up all of these things. And maybe he has got a shot of having a 4,000 yard season, which we haven't seen here except for once. If he basically has 250 or so yards each game on average, he'll get over 4,000 because he's got about 3,000, needs about 250 260 something yards per game the next 4 games, and he's going to get over 4,000 yards. And people will be saying, depending how many touchdowns he throws, people will be saying this is the greatest Jet quarterback season of all time. Why would we get rid of him? Well, sometimes you got to go beyond the numbers by looking at other numbers. So here's some tricks of the trade of what to actually look at when you're looking at data, in particular for the quarterbacks. So you can see here, this is Aaron Rodgers' career. Now, the key number to look at, you can look at some different numbers and things, but the main number to look at is called ANYA. Now, this stands for average net yards per attempt. And you can see how he's been throughout his career. He's led the league several times, 4 times. and he's had a very high number. So when you're leading the league with 9 or 8 in the eights, that's how you know that's the best number in the whole league. So that's the best. Then seven's going to be good, and sixes is kind of meh. But anything in the fives is bad. And you look at it, he went from 8 to 5.95. Now he's got 5.67. Now this number takes into account everything. Every time he attempts to pass, average net yards per attempt. So that includes sacks and how many yards he's losing per sack, because that counts if you're driving the team backward with your sacks. Well, that be accounted for somewhere, and it's accounted for in this number, Anya. And so you can see it's very poor. 5.67 is bad. Well below his average for his career, and well below, we were expecting probably in the sevens. We were expecting maybe this kind of a year, 6.96, 7.24, something like that. And that would have been much better. It seems like doesn't seem like a lot less, but it is. And so that is one way to do it, is to understand that to really put numbers into context. You want numbers that are contextual. Yards doesn't tell you. I mean, it tells you something, but doesn't tell you, was he getting those? Did he have like a lot of attempts? How efficient was he? Now, the other thing you could look at if you want to get super nerdy about it, and this is just on Pro Football Reference, so anybody can look at this, and this is what you should take a look at to see what's the total picture. Now, if you want to get super nerdy with it, you go into EPA. And what we're looking at here is the pass EPA. So EPA is expected points added. You don't need to know what that means. This is just a measure of efficiency. And right now we're looking at passing efficiency because we're looking at Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has been the quarterback the whole season. There hasn't been anybody else stepped in except for Tyrod for a few drives again when we were getting blown out. So basically it's been the Rodgers show. And so you'd say, okay, look, here are the great teams: the Ravens, the Bills, the Lions, the Commanders. These are all playoff teams, except for the Bengals, who are a weird anomaly this year. But these are the teams that have had the most efficient quarterback play as far as passing is concerned. You want efficient passing. It's the number one thing you want. Chiefs, Cardinals. So where are we? I mean, after all, this tells me Aaron Rodgers was a top 10 guy. But this, which is more contextual, tells you he's not efficient. We're 22nd in the league. And watching the team, you would say, okay, this makes a lot more sense rather than somebody's subjective opinion called the PFF people. This is just how efficient you are at moving the ball down the field, and EPA takes into account context, meaning, and this is what I do when you see me doing drive charts during the game, this is what I'm doing. I'm assigning a score to every single play. An example is, if it's 1st and 10 and you gain 4 yards, that's one thing. If it's 3rd and 20 and you gain the same 4 yards, you run the same play. 1st and 10, you run a certain play, gets 4 yards. 3rd and 20, you're running the same play and same result happens. You get 4 yards. Well, is that the same? No, it's not the same. It's not the same at all. You get credit for the first one because you've made 40% of the yards to gain that you need for a first down. And you get no credit for the second one because you now have to punt. It's now 4th and 16 and you're done. The drive's over. So you shouldn't get the same credit for the same 4 yards. Similarly, if it's 3rd and 2 and you gain 4 yards, you should get a lot more credit for those 4 yards because you now have a first down than if it's 3rd and 20 and you gain the same 4 yards and now you have to punt. So EPA takes all of that into account. And it says, as far as efficiency for passing in that context, we're actually 22nd. So as far as, you're going to have people saying based on certain statistics, whether it's this or something else or just some normie stats, that we should just stick with Rodgers. After all, if he throws for 4,000 yards, he's gonna have the best season in Jets history. Well, that's more of a comment about the Jets' history than Aaron Rodgers. And also, when you talk about Aaron Rodgers, he brings all of the negativity with him from the entire press corps. About 80 to 85% of the press hates Aaron Rodgers and will then hate on the Jets because Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. So if you have Aaron Rodgers, you really need to be. If we were up here in the top five, top eight, if we were, let's say we were here, it'd probably be worth it to bring back Rodgers because he's giving you something above and beyond that you really can't get from other people. With the way things have gone, not so much. Now people are going to say, well, but let's say he plays really well these last 4 weeks. He has 300-yard games 3 out of 4 times or something. People are going to say, well, yeah, but once he got healthy, look what he did. Okay, but he got injured, and that was the excuse in 2022, the thumb. And that was why people said, well, yeah, but the thumb. Okay. Then the next year he had the Achilles and was out the whole year. And the next year he's had all these leg injuries, and that's what they're using as an excuse for poor performance up until now. So now he's going into his year 42 season. You think he's not going to magically get injured or have some sort of nagging injury at age 42, at an age where only one player in the entire history of the NFL has succeeded and stayed basically injury free and performed at a high level at this position? And that person happened to have a personal trainer who got busted twice for the FTC for having a company that sold illegal supplements. You think that's a coincidence? But anyway, there's only been one, and that was the only guy who's done this at this level, been able to perform at this age to this level, and basically stayed away from injury. And so we have a guy 3 years in a row, injury, injury, injury. One of the years it kept him out, 2 of the years it did not, but 2 of the other years it was used as an excuse for poor performance. And we think that guy is then going to avoid nagging or an injury that takes him out next year. And then you factor in all of the negativity with the press who hates him and all of that. So I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying there's a lot of factors other than some of the things you might see on the surface that tell you, in fact, Aaron Rodgers is not a top 10 quarterback.